Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good evening, everybody. Happy New Year, and welcome to Season 7, Episode 21, overall 351 of Live with CDP Sports Talk, which is sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210 or email them at info@barrycullen.com. I hope everyone's doing well on this Wednesday, January 3rd, 2024. And I'm looking forward to my guest tonight. This is his first appearance here, and I'm going to bring him on shortly. His name is Taylor Phillips. He is a play-by-play commentator with WMLM 1520 in Michigan and also 105.9 FM there. And he's also the lead host of his own podcast show. I believe he started up in 2013 called the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. And I'm going to bring on Taylor tonight, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Michigan Wolverines, who are going to be playing the Washington Huskies in the national championship this Monday, January 8th, I believe at 8 o'clock from Houston. Good evening, Taylor. How you doing?
Good. How about you, Chris?
Good. Well, thank you so much for coming on my show today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I'm dressed for the occasion, of course.
Definitely good. Is this your first Canadian podcast radio show you've been on?
Canadian. I have never been on a Canadian podcast, but hey, I'm up for it.
Well, now you're on the first time. So, and we're also going to be on WQEE 99.1 FM probably tomorrow night. And I have a show on there right now as well. But hey, I want to say thanks again for coming on, and looking forward to talking to you a little bit about yourself and the Michigan Wolverines, that big win over Alabama 27-20 in overtime. And to me, it's the school's biggest win since 1997 when they beat Washington State in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, it is. And it's a fitting ring to it. When Michigan beat Alabama in the Rose Bowl, it's the same type of bowl game. And and guess what? They won their share of the national championship with, I believe, Nebraska.
Yes.
In 1997. Guess what? Both those two schools are in the same Big Ten conference. And now Michigan will take on Washington for all the marbles.
And they play them next year too on the road in Washington, I believe.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah,
somebody was bringing that up.
Are going to be in the same conferences starting next season.
How do you feel about Michigan being the 4.5 favorites over Washington right now? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I can see why, because their defense shut down Jaden Milroe and the Alabama Crimson Tide, despite giving up that one touchdown that gave the Crimson Tide the lead back 17-13 in the third quarter. Michigan hung in there. Their defense forced a field goal. And then after that second muff punt, which could have been a safety, which would have sealed the game for the 9-yard line, Michigan started at the 1, but they went all the way down. They somehow got 2 first downs and one on an illegal block, one of them on an illegal block by Roman Wilson, and one on a and then the other during a mislaid hit. Michigan just still kept going. They never even complained. They just kept going, and they got the touchdown to Roman Wilson and tied the game. Alabama got another chance, but they were forced to punt. But Michigan, again, pinned deep in their own territory somehow. they were, yeah, they only had to take like 2 knees. And they could have taken one. Alabama, I think, called a timeout in between those 2 knees, but overtime was underway anyway. Alabama won the coin toss, chosen to defer again.
That was a mistake. I think it was a mistake, especially when their defense was gassed from that last drive. In my opinion,
I know.
to me, overtime, get that ball first, and maybe things are different from. I'm not saying they would have won if they have taken the ball first, but to me, I think Saban made a mistake there. And one thing I wanted to talk to you, Taylor, too. We know about the Michigan miscues, but Alabama had a number of miscues with their center and the poor snaps. And actually, the last play of the game, it was a poor snap on Milroy. I'm not saying they would have scored a touchdown if it was a perfect snap, but
The snap was low.
Yeah, but it was like that a lot of the game. There was a lot of bad snaps, and hey, thoughts on Michigan's defense? They had 6 sacks? I think
6
5 in the
sacks.
first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Their defense just kept their defensive front just kept bringing pressure on Milrow over and over and over and over again all game for most of the game, if not all game long. They even made like a couple to 3 tackles for loss. They made a few, and they made this a defensive slugfest, giving their offense a chance to win the game in the end, tie it, and then win it. Blake Corum and the pass rush both take the cake on this one. Blake Corum not only can run the football, but he can catch football passes as well. And he caught one for the Wolverines' first touchdown of the game. And then Roman Wilson again. It was a slant route from the right to the left and around, and it was a trick play. Alabama's defense was fooled. There was nobody that can stop Roman Wilson from catching that football. He was left wide open, like nobody was ever even paying attention. But it was a trick play, and it paid off easily, paid off dividends.
I don't even think that was the biggest play of the game. You might disagree with me. I think the biggest play of the game was 4th and 2 Michigan at their 34-yard line with 3:18 left. If they don't pick up that first down, Alabama gets the ball. They get at least 3 or 7 points, and that's the game right there. To me, that 4th and 2 call by Michigan, that was the biggest reason why they won that game, converting on it, even though they had a holding penalty, thankfully, after the play was over.
Yeah, it was. It actually definitely was the key play of the game, going for it on 4th and 2 and converting for it. And Sherrod Moore, their offensive coordinator, dialed up the perfect play.
Absolutely. One thing I wanted to ask you, Taylor, they were okay in the first half offensively, but they seem to be stagnant in that second half. You got to give Alabama's defense a little credit, too. They did take away Cornelius Johnson and Loveland. They weren't factors in this game, but it just seemed like when the chips were on the line, that's when the offense kind of woke up, because I was worried there on that last drive because they hadn't done much. I think they didn't get their first down in that second half until halfway through the 4th quarter of that game.
Yeah, both defenses stood tall, Michigan's and Alabama's. And like I said, it was a defensive slugfest. Both teams played their hearts out. And it was good coverage by Alabama's secondary at times, but Michigan's offensive coordinator, Sherrod Moore, when it came down to the final 2 minutes left in the game, Sherrod Moore had tricks up his sleeve. Again, he dialed up the right play on 4th and 2, and then it was 1st and goal after Michigan got inside the 10. Roman Wilson again, 2 plays in a row. Good catch. Oh, here's another key play of the game. That one pass by J.J. McCarthy, it was tipped, but it was still spiraling. Roman Wilson adjusted to the ball, and he made a fine leaping catch. And he kept going until he was inside the 10, and he was pushed out of bounds. And as a player, you have to adjust to exactly what happens on that football field. And that's exactly what Roman Wilson did.
Yeah, he had a terrific game, and there was another catch in that game. I can't remember who it was, but it gave the Wolverines a first down after they ruled it incomplete. It was where he was out of bounds, but he had his toe on the grass. I don't know who did that catch, but that was an outstanding play too.
Yeah, I believe that was Roman Wilson again.
Okay,
maybe
that was a terrific play. There were some terrific catches in that game.
There were, yeah, including the toe drag, the Wilson tip catch, and then the Wilson game-tying touchdown with 1:43 left. It still gave Alabama time to try to knock in a field goal, but Bama's offense just kept sputtering and sputtering and sputtering while Michigan's defense kept bringing the pressure.
Yeah, in the second half, Alabama did run the ball more, as Milroy was a big factor in this game as well. But they basically took away Alabama's passing game and made them into one-dimensional offense. Michigan overall, I thought they had 130, 132 yards rushing, another 230 passing. I thought overall 365 yards was pretty good against this Alabama team as well. And they overcame those miscues on special teams. And I think, was it Jake Turner who replaced Jake Moody, missed the extra point in the field goal. But you know what? They overcame those. Sorry, Jake Turner. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, James Turner.
James Turner. Yeah. Sorry. James Turner.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah. But
I don't know why I had Jake.
Yeah, he just hooked that one missed field goal. He hooked it. The way I saw his foot on the ball, foot to ball contact, I can see how he hooked it. And you gotta make sure your toes are on the middle of the football, and that's exactly what did not happen. It was off to the right of the football, and as a result, you get a hook wide left kick, and it results in 0 points. Simple.
Because in most playoff games, when you miss a field goal or an extra point, usually they'll come back to haunt you. So there's a lot of positives in this big win, but for them to beat Washington Monday night in the national championships, they're going to have to play a clean game. Obviously, they didn't turn the ball over other than, I think, the one turnover, but they're going to have to make sure their special teams is much better than it was against Alabama, in my opinion, because you need all three phases to win a championship, and that's offense, defense, and your special teams, and everybody's going to have to pick up the slack on special teams this week.
Yeah. Speaking of turnovers, there was one play like on the first drive of the game when Michigan had the ball. JJ McCarthy looked like he threw an interception, but that was overturned. Looked like the Bama defensive back stepped out of bounds before he made the catch. And by rule, it was weighed back. The referees correctly overturned that, and that gave Michigan's drive a little bit of extra life before they went 3 and out. So Michigan dodges a bullet there, but that's about the only type of mental mistake that JJ McCarthy would have made in that game. But otherwise, McCarthy played a clean turnover-free game, and he just needs to keep that up.
Yeah, after the game, Harbaugh was mentioning Tom Brady. I know Tom Brady was the last quarterback to beat Alabama, I believe, in a Rose Bowl, but I just think it's silly to compare him to Tom Brady, because when Tom Brady was with Michigan, he was a good quarterback, but he was not elite. And for many years, Drew Henson was ahead of him. So I just didn't think that was fair to compare him to Tom Brady. But I think he's had a pretty good career at Michigan. And I wanted to get your thoughts, Taylor, on J.J. McCarthy's time at Michigan so far.
Well, J.J. McCarthy has been really good at quarterback. I know there's only one Tom Brady. Tom Brady is by far phenomenal. Brady has won multiple Super Bowl rings. And Again, there's still one Tom Brady, but J.J. McCarthy has been tremendous for Michigan at quarterback. There's a reason why he first took over for Cade McNamara, who later on, after sputtering, transferred to Iowa, and then he was benched for Deacon Hill, and then Iowa's offense fell flat in that Big Ten championship game, scored 0 points, and they almost never even reached the end zone, reached Michigan's territory. For goodness sakes, Michigan's Big Ten championship game / win looked very easy, to be honest. But really, J.J. McCarthy he and his offense are gonna have some adjusting to do when they play the number 2 Washington Huskies for all the marbles.
I'm not going to speculate on Jim Harbaugh right now because there's still the national championship. But as for Sharon Moore, do you see him being a head coach in college football at some point, or being in the National Football League in the future?
Well, only time will tell. But I think Sharon Moore does have what it takes with his mentality, his offensive mentality, his good play calling. He coached for 4 of the 5 games that Harbaugh, 4 or 5 of the 6 games that total in the regular season that Harbaugh got suspended for, not only for recruiting violations, but for the sign stealing scandal that everyone's aware of, the outpouring of it all. But Michigan never even quit. And when you got Sharon Moore coaching Maryland and Penn State and Ohio State, beating all those 3 teams with Harbaugh out of the fray, that shows how unbeatable Michigan can be, with or without Harbaugh. And that's the thing. Is Harbaugh being suspended 6 games in the regular season total, and Michigan still finishing undefeated by beating Penn State and Ohio State? Those were the 2 biggest wins in the regular season. That's it.
I still feel Michigan's still not getting enough credit because I still hear from some of my friends in New York and New Jersey, Michigan cheated and all this stuff. And I'm like, listen, they were without Jim Harbaugh for a number of games, and they still won. They beat Ohio State. They beat Penn State. They won the Big Ten championship again. They've beaten Alabama. I think Harbaugh outcoached Saban on Monday as well. What's your thoughts on the matchup with Nick Saban and Jim Harbaugh?
He did. I respect both Harbaugh and Saban at the same time.
Yeah.
The truth is, in that game, Harbaugh just outcoached Nick Saban. Nick Saban admitted that he made some mistakes, and he said in the post-game press conference after that Rose Bowl game that I wish I could have done better to push these kids. But it is what it is. Michigan beat Alabama, just one bad snap after another. But Michigan's offense does get you points, but defense does get the rest of the job done. And it proved it in the end on 4th and 9, sealing the game in overtime.
You've seen the Michigan Wolverines for years. In terms of all-time great Michigan Wolverines and running backs, what are your thoughts on Blake Corum?
Blake Corum is a beast, period. I pointed this out before. He can run. He can catch passes. He's got running speed. And when he enters the NFL, when he gets drafted by any NFL team, he can show you why he's the future. He's one of the future offensive pieces in the NFL, no matter what team he plays for. So all eyes will be on him.
I like the fact that he can catch out of the backfield. He can run, obviously, and he can also pass protect as well. And I do see him being in the National Football League next year as well.
Exactly. So three things that Corum can do, that's better than 2. Yes. And those are all the things that you can do. I can compare him to Jamison Williams with that big block in at SoFi Stadium when the Lions beat the Los Angeles Chargers, by the way. But really, in general, it shows how blocking on offense can be key to scoring points, putting points up on that scoreboard, and that does the trick. Blocking always does the trick.
And I thought I think Michigan's offensive line was outstanding in this game. I really do. I think they were pretty solid. They were able to run the ball when they needed to, and JJ made some big throws when he needed to as well. And hey, Taylor, I wanted to ask you this next question. I'll save this other one, but this one, I wanted to ask you this, being from Michigan too. How much does this win mean to the University of Michigan and the state of Michigan after the past 2 years of losing in the semifinals to Georgia, and then TCU last year, Texas Christian University, where they were the favorites, Michigan, and they just fell short again?
Well, here's how, as we're aware of, they had horrible first halves against Georgia and TCU. They just fell flat. They got dominated. Georgia gave them a small taste of what the college football playoff was like. It was Michigan's first ever college football playoff appearance. It was about college football playoff competition and how it works, the inner workings of this, and how high this elite competition is with Georgia and Alabama and others. When they were in the college football playoff 2 seasons ago, and then Michigan, they had a month to prepare after they won back-to-back Big Ten football championships. They had 1 month to prepare for TCU. I don't know what happened, but in that first half, they fell flat. They fell behind 21-3, and then and trailed 21-9 at halftime. Roman Wilson looked like he scored a touchdown on that pass, fell short of the 1 yard line, and then Michigan fumbled the snap. It was recovered by TCU. You can't just keep settling for field goals. JJ McCarthy threw a pick 6 to begin with to open the scoring, and that's just an awfully negative and gut wrenching mindset to have to start a football game in that, especially when you have 1 month to prepare for an opponent. No matter who you play, you just had to play better. And the fact that you had to play Alabama in that Rose Bowl after that, in the Rose Bowl, Alabama, that had you more mentally prepared than you were prepared against TCU and Georgia. Yeah, TCU. I thought Michigan took TCU for granted and got too cocky. It came back to bite them from behind. But Alabama was definitely no easy task. Nick Saban was still their head coach, and all that familiar jazz about that. It prepared the Michigan Wolverines. Of course, they brought a positive mindset. Of course.
I also find
even when McCarthy threw that near interception that was overturned into an incomplete pass, that caught a break. But Michigan, that they didn't give up. They responded well. They took a 13-10 lead at halftime, and it was a battle on from there.
Hey, Taylor, it doesn't matter if it's Canadian football, NFL, college football. I always find with football teams, teams need to be playing on a week-by-week basis, because I find when teams have bye weeks or a month off, it's hard to get that same energy back. But you got to credit Jim Harbaugh and the coaching staff for having this team ready to play. Obviously, they got off to a bad start, 7-0, and the fans are like, oh, here we go again. But this team, this time, did not panic and fall behind. They didn't let Alabama go up 10-0 or 14-0. They evened that game up, and then, you know what I mean? They stayed with it. In the first half, they're up 13-10, and then what they did in the second half. I just think they learned from their past experiences this year.
Yeah, and the first half is obviously key. Michigan going into their game against Alabama, they were outscored 55-9
Yes.
total. And it's definitely, and that quickly changed after that. Michigan led 13-10 at halftime. That was a completely different story. And unlike most fans that overreact, I did not overreact, of course, when I saw the game against Alabama, because I had a lot more respect for Nick Saban, particularly, as well as Jim Harbaugh, of course. They were both two great coaches, no matter what, no matter who won the game. And I was just thrilled to see Michigan finally get their first college football playoff win. Finally, they at least they got their experience of winning in the winning a game in the college football playoff tournament. So maybe they can carry the momentum on to Washington. Michigan does have momentum, especially on offense, while their defense just keeps on rolling. Keep the pass rush going. Bring the pressure. Bring the blitz. All that good stuff. They'll have to keep that going against Michael Penix Jr. and the Washington Huskies. They got other dangerous weapons, but the main key weapon, Michael Penix Jr. Of course, we're aware of that.
We'll get into that a little bit later. Wanted to ask you this too. Jim Harbaugh has been coach of Michigan since 2015. I know in 2020 the fans wanted him gone, but how much does this win mean to Jim Harbaugh and his time in Michigan? And in old-term great Michigan Wolverines head coaches, you obviously think of Bo and Lloyd Carr. Where does this win put Jim Harbaugh in the category of all-time great Wolverines head coaches?
Well, I can compare Jim Harbaugh to Lloyd Carr. Lloyd Carr, that was the last, and that was in 2007, the 2007 to 2008 season. It began in 2007. The Michigan Wolverines won a bowl game against Florida. I think it was the Citrus Bowl. I can't remember, but they won before Lloyd Carr announced his retirement, before Rich Rodriguez took over as head coach, and then Brady Hoke, and then Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh, it just took years. That 2020, the 2020 season was just a wash after, of course, all that stuff from 2015 to 2019, all the criticism and stuff like that. But Harbaugh decided to never give up. He finally beat Ohio State in 2021. He finally got that Columbus monkey off their back in 2022 when they crushed the Buckeyes in Columbus, 28-3 in that second half. 45-23 was the score of that one. Man, I not only was I thrilled at Michigan beating Ohio State in Ohio State, but in like almost rout fashion in that second half. I was like a powerful feeling at that obviously proved that Michigan can beat Ohio State for a third time in a row, which they did at a closer margin, 30-24. That interception by Rod Moore, Blake Corum. The Wolverines won without him in 2022, but Blake Corum, when they needed him the most, he delivered again and again and again. They beat Ohio State. They beat Penn State with Blake Corum. They just kept on going. Blake Corum scored yet another touchdown in Iowa, and then two more against Alabama in the Rose Bowl, including the game winner in overtime. And Michigan's defense just had to do what they had to do. They closed the gap on that run up the middle by Jaden Milroe on the quarterback keeper. Even on that low snap, Milroe still kept going. But
we all know,
Michigan's defensive front was prepared to shut down the gap on Milroe, and they did. And the game was over.
Everybody kind of knew it was going to go to him, but maybe Saban should have. I know he's a great quarterback and he's great scrambling, but Michigan knew what was going to be called there. Maybe they should have had them roll out. It's too late now, but like I said, everybody saw that play coming, and Michigan's defense basically came through at the end, and it's been a good year for the state of Michigan with the Wolverines. Now one win from a national championship, and the Detroit Lions. We'll get into the Lions after. Being back to first place in the NFC. I call it the Central or whatever. First division title in 30 years.
It was the Central in 1993.
So what is it now? The North.
It is,
NFC
yes.
North. So yeah, because you've had the Red Wings struggling, the Pistons struggling, the Tigers struggling, Michigan State struggles. So the Wolverines and the Lions are at now. It's giving the state of Michigan something to smile about.
Yeah, the Lions, NFC North champs. Of course, right now they're 11-5, but they got the Vikings at home this upcoming Sunday.
1 o'clock kickoff at Ford Field.
Yeah, the Vikings are like out of options right now. The Lions secondary in that game in Minnesota, they pick up 4 passes. 4, 2 of them by Kirby Joseph, the first by Brian Branch, and then the division clinching interception by Ifeatu Melifonwu. Out of all people, 5 tackles, 2 sacks, and the division clinching pick aforementioned.
Absolutely. We'll get into that at the end of the show. But Taylor, I wanted to ask you this question as well. Who were some other Michigan Wolverines who stood out to you in this game on both sides of the football against Alabama?
Well, I'm going to start with the defense.
Okay.
Mason Graham. He made one of the 6 sacks. Also, Grant, whatever his first name is, but he made a key tackle on Alabama's only drive in overtime to force like a 3rd down or something like that. It's a mate. It's also Mikey Sainristil still made a pass breakup. He's one of those secondary defenders to watch in that national championship game. Also, Caleb Mullings. He's a really good. He's got wheels as well as a backup running back for the Wolverines behind Blake Corum. So he made like 1 or 2 good runs. Mullings has shown how valuable he can be during the regular season as well in Nebraska and at home against Purdue. At home against Indiana, at home against Rutgers. We've seen it all. And of course, I think that's about it. But Semi Morgan has been key. Just had a rough game against Alabama. A drop punt, and then that was another critical mistake that he made. But whether it was a penalty or something like that, but anyway, those were the other Michigan Wolverines football players that stood out on both sides of that football in that Rose Bowl game.
Mason Graham, I like him. I know he's not related to Brandon Graham, who's with the Eagles, but when I see 55 and the name Graham on a Michigan Wolverines jersey, I automatically think of the alumni Brandon Graham, who's had a Hall of Fame career with the Philadelphia Eagles. And I thought he had a good game as well. And guys stepped up, and that's the one thing, Taylor, about this team. They have a lot of star players, but they play like a team. And they didn't let the adversity affect them at the end of the game, and they showed resilience. They basically showed a championship type mentality with that comeback. And like I said, hats off to the coaching staff for having the team ready to go on that last drive. And that last drive was very impressive, especially when they hadn't done much in that second half. And like I said, Roman Wilson really stepped up his game as well. Bright Clorum and JJ McCarthy. He's proving people wrong. I was one of his critics and skeptics, and he proved me wrong, and I'm eating some humble pie, and I don't mind being wrong on that as well. And I'm really excited about the game. That leads to my next question, Taylor. Leads to my next question, basically. Overall thoughts on the Texas Washington game, which I watched, and it was unbelievable at the end of the game where Washington nearly gave it away to Texas. And just thoughts on that game and what challenges Washington presents to Michigan, and what are some keys for a Wolverines win over Washington Monday night?
Well, the Texas Washington All-State Sugar Bowl, it was more like an offensive slugfest. It didn't quite reach 30 points, but it was kind of like an offensive slugfest. It reached like the over on 65 or something like that. But Washington again proved how powerful their offense can be, even against a stout defensive front in the Longhorns. For the Longhorns, but Michigan's defense is going to have to bring the pass rush more and bring even more pressure on Michael Penix Jr. They're going to have to step it up a notch, while J.J. McCarthy's and his offense is going to have to make some adjustments, keep riding the momentum with Blake Corum, Roman Wilson, Cornelius Johnson, Colston Loveland, Caleb Mullings. Like I mentioned before, that other player that stood out, one of those other players that stood out to me. And it's going to take that two-way football game for the Michigan Wolverines to rev up like at least a couple to a few notches. So because Washington's definitely no easy task. They crushed Michigan State not once but twice on the football field, in Washington in the first meeting, and then in East Lansing this past regular season. After Mel Tucker was fired after going 2-0, starting 2-0 in the regular season.
Penix is a great quarterback. I haven't seen a lot of him play because I didn't see a lot of Washington games, but is he a threat to run the ball too, as well as Jalen Milroy was?
I think Penix can run the football as well. So Michigan's defense is going to have to adjust on stopping the run as well, because they saw how Jaden Milroe kept burning them on quarterback keepers, and the way he's been developed. And Nick Saban still does have a good way of developing players with his program, of course. But that's why Michigan's defense, their run defense, has to make some adjustments with the mental awareness on the quarterback and the running backs as well.
I think it's going to come down to the Michigan secondary against Washington's receivers. And I also think, I'm old school, by the way, I think it's going to come down to the offensive line and defensive line battle as well. Which lines win the battles, I think, are going to win the game. Jim Brandstatter told me that too. Generally in football, a lot of the times, if your offensive line and defensive lines win the battles against the other team's lines, you generally win. And I think that's what's going to be a key in that game. And Michigan, I think, has a very good secondary as well.
Yeah. Mikey Sainris still, Semi Morgan as well. He can play secondary as well. But Michael Barrett also at linebacker. He was another. That's what I forgot. Michael Barrett on defense. That guy at linebacker, he was making some good defensive plays against Alabama. That's another player that stood out to me. That's one of the names that's one name that I forgot that stood out to me, but there he is right there. And Ron Moore, they'll need him to step up as well. Secondary, of course, will have to help the pass rush as well. The pass rush usually does a great job of forcing more difficulty for the quarterback to throw the football to his receivers, and they've been causing every opposing quarterback a lot of trouble, and it just needs to keep on happening.
I think another key in this game is going to be turnovers. Weather will not be a factor playing in Houston, but I think the team that makes the most mistakes is going to lose this game. I think I think Michigan really needs to get a fumble recovery or an interception. A pick six would be nice too, but I really think they're going to need an extra play from their defense to help out their offense. Because I think Michigan right now, very good football club, but I still think their defense is a little bit stronger than their offense side of the ball.
Yes,
You agree with me there?
secondary defense is always key. You got to cover your receivers, like at least most of the time, if not all the time, and that's the key. You want to make sure your receivers don't catch too many deep balls because otherwise that can kill you. Of course, that because any allowed deep, wide open, deep ball can kill you if you don't do anything about it. It's pretty simple. I've seen way too much of it with the Lions, of course, even though they've gotten better and won the NFC North. But we're talking Michigan here, the Wolverines. They've been doing a really good job. Mikey Sainer still has been leading the secondary as well.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot with this question, Taylor. Coin toss. Michigan, do you take it first in the first half, or do you take it in the second half against Washington? Personally, if it was me, I would take the ball the first chance you get it, because you want to try to get that offense and try to get that early lead.
I definitely would. It would be nice to get the ball first and score, no matter if you win or lose. If you win, most teams win the coin toss and defer,
yes,
just to prove how great their defense is. So it could actually go either way.
Yeah, personally, I'd want that ball first to get that lead, because you want a good start against Washington. You do not want to fall behind 10, 14, 21 points, because I don't think Michigan's meant to come back from big deficits. They need to keep that first quarter close, and they need to get a good start. And one of the keys is I really do think they need to get that ball first and get in the end zone. And I don't think field goals is going to beat Washington. So I do think in this game, Taylor, I think you're going to see Harbaugh be a little more aggressive, even more aggressive on fourth and closes, because field goals are points, okay? But in the end, I think you're going to need to score touchdowns to give yourself a good opportunity to beat this very good Washington Huskies team.
Of course, you want to score more touchdowns than field goals every single game, and that's the key on offense. That's the objective, of course, to score touchdowns. And I think Michigan's offense does have the capability to do that, even against tougher teams like Washington, Alabama, and Ohio State, of course. Even Texas, although they don't play them, right?
Well, Texas was so close to getting back into that game. And that's what I love about sports and college football. The game is not over until the last second, until it hits zero. And Texas nearly pulled that off, but got to give Washington credit there at the end. And I'm looking forward to the game. Before we're going to continue with a few more questions, but what are your thoughts? I'm going to get your thoughts first. How do you see this game playing out, Taylor? And what's the final score? And who do you see being the MVP and the defensive player of the game?
I'm going to go. I'm going to go Michigan 27, Washington 24, just to level it out a bit. It's going to be ranged in between offense and defense. It's going to come down to the wire. Michigan will win it, but I think Washington, as far as the spread is concerned, will cover. Last I saw, it was 4.5 yesterday or 2.5 or a night and a half ago. And I just think Michigan will win it by just a field goal, 27-24. And I think Blake Corn would be the MVP, but the defensive player of the game, I would say Mikey Sainer is still.
Okay. All right. We're going to differ on that, but the final score, I've got Michigan winning by a field goal as well, 31-28. And I've got Blake Corum as the offensive player of the game for this game for Michigan. Defense, I'm going to go with Junior Colson. I just have a feeling he's going to be an impact player for the Wolverines on Monday night.
Colston Loveland?
No, Junior Colson.
Junior Colson.
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder if he's on. Never even heard of Junior Colson, to be honest. Defensive player?
Yeah. He had 10 tackles and 5 solo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think he's going to be the defensive player of the game, but I just have a feeling it's going to be him, Junior Colson, and Blake Corum that come through in this game. But I'm really pumped up for it. And are you excited about this game too? It's been a long time since the Wolverines have been in a national championship game.
Long time coming. I'm really excited. I can't wait for it.
Got some comments here. Facebook user. I don't know who it is. Way to go, Chris P. Okay. Thank you, Facebook user. I don't know who you are. And my friend D. Koval. She is a Philadelphia Eagles fan, but she loves college football too. And thank you for the card. You're welcome, D. And I don't even want to talk about the Eagles right now. The Eagles have they started out so good, 10-1, and now they've lost 4 out of 5. And thankfully, the Michigan Wolverines have picked up the slack because being an Eagles fan right now is stressful. And at least I got the Michigan Wolverines to look forward to on Monday night as well. But I thank you, D, for watching, and whoever else Facebook user was watching as well. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. But it's going to be a great national championship game Monday night in Houston. I'd love to go to that game as well. And I imagine the tickets won't be cheap for that national championship game.
No. They'll cost like $1,000 per ticket,
or more.
Just like they did in that game against Ohio State in Ann Arbor. Wow, or 600 rather. Wow, just amazingly expensive.
And then, do you know Matt Deary? Matt Deary, Detroit radio personality. He's a friend of mine too. He tweeted today on X. I call it Twitter still. He said the cheapest seat at Ford Field for this for the playoff round at Ford Field, the cheapest seat on the upper deck, $517 US. So I tweeted Matt. I said, convert that into Canadian money. That's $715. I said, where do the real fans get the money for these prices?
Well, I mean, it just draws them in real easily, but it just demands more money. It's the way business goes.
Yeah, it is a business, like you said. And all right, Taylor, you still got time for a few more questions?
Sure.
And a few more minutes? Okay. Wanted to say, Taylor, thank you again for coming on. But can you tell my audience a little bit about yourself and how did you come about your podcast show, the Michigan Sports Truths podcast, and just tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I just started off with Taylor's Detroit Sports. I just made a name for myself, and but inside of it, I wanted to detect the truth of it, and with that, I had urgency on it. Being truthful and honest and accurate because I care so much, so much more than most people, because I know how insufferable some fans may be, and they don't even want to bother with the truth, but I bring it anyway. That's why 2 years later I wanted to change it to that, from Taylor's Detroit Sports, from that to the Detroit Sports Truth. And then I was influenced from one of my other friends. Since I cover the Wolverines and Spartans, it should be changed to the Michigan Sports Truth, along with the Detroit professional sports teams, the Tigers, Lions, Red Wings, and Pistons. Of course, you add the Wolverines and Spartans with them, you get the Michigan Sports Truth instead of just the Detroit Sports. Instead of just the Detroit Sports Truth. So I one of the a Facebook user named named Ed Smith on one of the Facebook groups, which I may not want to mention to you or the mainstream media, came along. I took him under my wing as my co-host, and I brought him on before we made the name change to the Detroit Sports Truth and then the Michigan Sports Truth. Ed Smith. You can follow him on X, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube at Ed Smith 313. By the way, he's a Detroiter, of course, and he is very analytical. He does his homework. He gathers his notes all for our podcast, but for the main instance. So he helps me out a lot. This is how we detect truth. No matter no matter if fans like it or not, the truth is out there. We observe and detect the truth because we care about them. We're definitely looking out. And how to make every Detroit professional sports organization better, and every college school's football and men's basketball team evolve and whatnot. And that's how it goes.
How many episodes have you done so far, approximately? And what are some of your most memorable episodes? And have some guests that you've had on your show as well.
We've just done a lot of episodes. Of course, I can't really count, to be honest. But we just keep on going. We don't even keep track of how many episodes. We just keep on going. But anyway, as far as the guests are concerned, we used to have Jeff Moss of the Detroit Sports Rag on our show for a few times in the past, because he took me. Well, but he wanted to bring me even more truth, more hidden sources to our show that the mainstream media doesn't want us to know, like what's going on in the administration, the front office with ownership, Chris Ilitch, Tom Gores, and the Ford family and stuff, and even a source that said Xavier Simpson, Michigan men's basketball, was suspended indefinitely for violating team policies. He was only suspended for one game. Mainstream media followed up on that. One of the talk show hosts on 97.1 The Ticket, Dan Leach, gave my podcast credit. So
awesome.
He gave me a shout out on 97.1 The Ticket, WXYT in Southfield.
Awesome.
So
good station.
Yeah, with Mike Valeni and Rico Beard, by the way.
I remember
Mike Valeni is realistic.
I remember when Detroit had their first sports station back in the 90s, WDFN 1130, and now it's just 97.1 The Ticket.
Yep, it is. It's pretty much the only sports station in Detroit that remains in Detroit. But
absolutely.
But other talk show hosts just like overreact and just ask out imposing like questions to its audience that kind of like almost like it's kind of like almost clickbait. But we detect the truth. We don't ask our audience questions. We reveal the truth. We already know what's going on. We do the homework. We do everything.
That's huge. Even with a podcast, people don't realize how much work there's in it. And also, if you want to have credibility, you have to do your homework and be prepared, because people aren't going to take your show seriously if you're making up stuff or you're not accurate with stuff. And since I have you on here, Taylor, people that are watching this live streamed and also on audio and later on my radio station in Georgia, WQEE 99.1 FM, a shout out for the station. What advice would you give to somebody that's thinking about getting into the podcasting world right now?
Well, just create your own podcast and give it a meaning, give it a title, and see where you go from there. You just never know. And come up with a meaningful idea of how you're going to run it. Just like I did. Take it from me. Pretty simple. Just brainstorm it. That's what it takes. Brainstorming.
And be yourself. Don't be somebody that you're not.
Exactly.
And I'm going to be honest with you, Taylor, and I'm going to admit this. When I started this 4 years ago on Instagram Live, I couldn't get guests on, and I had everything scripted and written, and I had Eric Smith on from the Toronto Raptors of the NBA, a broadcaster. He gave me the best advice. He said, Chris, you can write down points and notes, but talk to your guests like myself, like we're in a coffee shop or at a sports stadium. And that's what I've done now for the last 3.5 years. And I thank Eric for that advice. Same with Chuck Swirsky as well. And you have to reach out to people too. Nothing, if you want to get into radio industry or the media industry through a podcast, you got to go out and earn and work for those opportunities. Nothing has been given to me. And that's how you become successful. Is just by going out there and reaching out to people. You're going to have your successes and you're going to have your setbacks, but you just got to keep focusing.
Exactly. You got to keep going. You never give up.
And I look how we met. We met through having Greg Eno on my show. I had him on a month ago or a few weeks ago. Another great guest. I could have talked to him for 4 hours, and I think you saw our show, and that's how we met too. The podcasting industry, I've connected with a lot of people that are great people, and I've made a lot of friendships here as well.
Yes, exactly. And this is the way that we're supposed to connect and stay in the know on what's going on with all our teams, of course, and know the truth, whether we like it or not. Because
Absolutely. Hey, and since I have you on for a couple more minutes, Taylor, when is your next episode of the Michigan Sports Truth podcast? And can you tell my audience where they can find it on audio and video, etc.?
Well, of course, tomorrow night at around 10:30, it's going to be on YouTube. It's going to be on X Live, Facebook Live, the Michigan Sports Truth podcast Facebook page. It's going to be even on Instagram at Michigan_Truth and on X at Michigan_Truth. So on YouTube at the Michigan Sports Truth podcast, like it's on the rolling lower caption right there. So we're going to break down the Lions Cowboys game and the Rose Bowl game as well, and the national championship game, and of course the Pistons finally winning a game after suffering 28 straight losses. But of course, after that, they got derailed by the Houston Rockets, or more of a 500 team.
News streak.
And then the Red Wings as well. We got them covered. Okay. They finally beat the San Jose Sharks, by the way, 5-3 in San Jose.
I'm glad your show tomorrow night's a late show. What is it again? 10 o'clock, 10:30?
10:30.
Perfect, because I have to work tomorrow. I'm filming. I'm a camera operator. I film university sports, so I'm going to be filming volleyball, and I will be done by 10 o'clock. So when I get home from doing my work assignment, I will tune into your show, and I'll make sure I comment. And I'm looking forward to your show as well.
Absolutely. Again, people, subscribe to the YouTube channel, the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast, at the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast, and turn on all notifications on the bell icon to catch up on live episodes.
And I've already subscribed, and I think you've already subscribed to my YouTube channel as well. Are you on TikTok too as well?
At DT2 Phillips.
On TikTok, okay. I never thought I'd join TikTok a few years ago, but you know what? It's been a great tool for my show and my guests. Absolutely. And we're going to wrap this up. Just couple questions, Taylor. Can you just tell us about your play-by-play commentary role with WMLM 1520 AM? And is that in Alma, Michigan?
The station is located in Alma. It's WMLM 105.9 FM 1520 AM.
Okay.
It used to cover 3 schools, including Breckenridge. Now it just covers 2 for Ithaca. Those are Ithaca and St. Louis, of course, since Breckenridge, especially since Breckenridge's high school football team switched from 11 player to 8 player in the MHSAA. While Ithaca and St. Louis are still in the Tri-Valley Conference and whatnot, the Ithaca Yellow Jackets, have been proving to us once again why they are one of the best athletic programs in football and in basketball in the Gratiot County area. You can catch on both FM and AM, 105.9 FM, 1520 AM. It has a Facebook page. It just doesn't stream online, unfortunately. And it doesn't even have a recording device in the studio either. We apologize for any inconvenience. But I'm also the play-by-play commentator for the new Kalkaska Battlers semi-pro hockey team, the Michigan Independence Hockey League. The Kalkaska Battlers hockey team has a YouTube channel on its own for me to call play-by-play on while it streams live for home games. And I'm going to be in the Coliseum when the Kalkaska Battlers drop the puck on the 6th, this Saturday, January 6th. And I'm looking it up. It's against the Detroit. Wait, hold on a second. The 6th. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's not the 6th. It's the 13th.
Okay.
At home against the Detroit Warhawks Hockey Club at the Coliseum. On the 6th, I'm back on WMLM, actually, when the oh, no, I'm not on the 6th. Because I didn't request off for the 6th. But anyway, I'm back on WMLM on the 12th of this month, and then on the 13th, I'm in Kalkaska when the Battlers play the Detroit Warhawks.
When you started doing play-by-play, did you have a mentor and a broadcaster in Detroit that you kind of really liked a lot?
Not a mentor, but an idol like Ernie Harwell.
Okay. Oh, the late Ernie Harwell. Great choice.
Yeah, I even saw him in person during a Tigers game in 2006.
Awesome. Detroit's had so many great broadcasters. George Kell, Al Kaline, Ernie Harwell, Paul Carey, Ken Daniels, Mickey Redman, Ken Cowell, Paul Wirtz, Jim Price. And another guy who does a great job too is Dan Dickerson, because he had to follow in the footsteps of Ernie Harwell, and Dan Dickerson has done a really good job.
Don't forget George Blaha.
George Blaha, the voice of the Pistons since 1976.
Wow.
That's hard to believe. 1976. And
hey, doing this for about almost a half century now.
I'm surprised he hasn't written a book about his time with the Detroit Pistons, because he's seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. He's seen all of it in his time in Detroit, from the 70s and early 80s when they struggled, and then he was there for the golden era of Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars, and then now, unfortunately, this team has kind of hit rock bottom, and that's another subject for another day, Taylor. If we have you back on our show again, if you want to come back, we'll have to talk a little bit more about the Pistons and the Red Wings and the Tigers. I just wanted to focus on the Michigan Wolverines right now, because I think it's an exciting time in Michigan. I'm looking forward to that game on Monday night. I believe it's an 8:00 kickoff from Houston.
It is, yes. And that is on ESPN and ABC, on ESPN. And again, on social media, Facebook, the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast, on X/Twitter, and on Instagram, both at Michigan_Truth, and on YouTube at the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. Subscribe, turn on all notifications on the bell icon for those that haven't. I know you already did.
Absolutely. And finally, we'll wrap this up. What's the fun fact about yourself and the state of Michigan that a lot of people don't know about?
Well, I have a really good memory due to the fact that I was born with high functioning Asperger's autism. And I can remember the exact things very well. Like the last time I went to a Red Wings game when they won back in 1999 on March 28th. That was on a Sunday back at Joe Louis Arena against the Philadelphia Flyers. It was 1-0 Wings. Slava Kozlov tied at 1. 2-1 Wings. Slava Kozlov again tied at 2. And then Wendell Clark poked it in 3-2. Overtime winner. And around the 2:35 mark of the first of the overtime frame. Red Wings win 3-2 in overtime.
That's awesome. And I remember my first Red Wings game back in December of 1981 at the brand new Joe Louis Arena, where they lost to the Flyers 6-4. And I remember the Flyers had those black Cooperall pants on. That was
brand
a big
new Joe
style
Louis
back
Arena. You
then.
mean Little Caesars Arena?
No, Joe Louis Arena 1981. Joe Louis Arena
Okay.
opened in 79, but being 2 years old, and I think, 9 at the time, I thought, oh, this is great. And back in 1981, it was still a brand new arena. And now I've seen Joe Louis, the Olympia, Joe Louis, and Little Caesars Arena as well. But I do miss the Joe. It had a lot of character there.
It did, yeah.
A lot of history and stuff like that. So, but hey, Taylor, I apologize for keeping you over 45 minutes, but I want to say
good.
Thank you so much for coming on my Live with CDP Sports Talk tonight. And I'm going to send you the audio and the video link and a link to my radio station. It'll air tomorrow night, most likely on WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta. And I want to say a shout out to Ryan O'Neill, the station manager, who a year ago gave me an opportunity to have my show on his station weeknights from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. And I've met so many great people doing this show, Taylor, and I consider you a friend, and keep up the great work with your podcast show as well.
Yes, I will. Thanks very much. I'm just trying to get a broader audience with YouTube and Spreaker, but I'm just doing the best I can. But I got to detect truth, whether they like it or not.
Absolutely. And again, what time is your show on tomorrow night? 10:30, right? 10:30
Yep.
Eastern? 10:30 Eastern?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And how long are your shows on average, or it just depends on the conversation?
From 30 minutes to about an hour.
Okay. Perfect. So everybody, make sure you tune into the Michigan Sports Truths podcast with Taylor Phillips tomorrow night, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Sorry?
And Ed Smith, by the way. He's my co-host.
Ed Smith. Okay, Ed Smith. Okay, Ed Smith and Taylor Phillips. Check them both out tomorrow night, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. But hey, Taylor, I want to say thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking to you. An hour goes by fast, and we'll talk to you tomorrow night during your show. And I'll make sure I do my comments. But hey, I hope you have a great night, and looking forward to this weekend. It's going to be a great sports weekend. We got the NFL wrapping up, and then we got the national championship as well. But we'll definitely have you back on my show again in the future, and we'll talk some Pistons, some Red Wings, and Tigers baseball as well with you.
All right. Yes.
All right, Taylor. Yep. Cool. All right, buddy. Have a great night, Taylor, and we'll keep in touch with you on social media.
Yep. Thanks. Ta-ta.
Thanks. You too. All right, guys, that was Taylor Phillips, the host of the Michigan Sports Truths podcast. And our next episode is tomorrow night, Thursday night, 10:30 Eastern, with Taylor Phillips and Ed Smith. Check them out. They're on all social media platforms as well. And I really enjoyed having Taylor on tonight to talk some Michigan Wolverines and a little bit about himself as well. And before we wrap it up, guys, I'm going to show you a little clip. This clip is courtesy of ESPN's YouTube channel of the overtime between Michigan and Alabama. Just bear with us.
McCarthy just takes a knee, and we'll head it to overtime.
That's that block up and then gets big yards.
3 Michigan tight ends in the ballgame. They hand it to Corey McGann, who makes the cut. First down. Spins and scores. Blake Corr puts Michigan on top in overtime. It wasn't fancy. It was just old school determination on the ground. Blake Corr, another touchdown to break the Michigan all-time rushing touchdown record. And what a way to do it.
Oh, my gosh. And what a job by this offensive line, right? Really good push up front.
Again, an offense that was stifled, smothered by Alabama throughout almost the entire second half until that game-tying drive comes out on fire in overtime.
Remember that Michigan lead leader up front, Zach Center, the All-American, has not played. Carson Barnard moved from right tackle down to right guard, and he's had a great night. Here he is. He's going to pull around. You're going to get a great block here by the tight end as well. But watch the vision we just talked about and the jump cut right there. What an excellent job in that lateral quicks by Corum. Bounce it, get behind that big guard, and now show how you have that heart and desire to be the all-time leading scored touchdown leader in Michigan history.
Football team that hasn't been in this position all year. Downing, they've certainly shown in different ways. These fans can't breathe. The Michigan fans, they've seen the pain of two playoff losses the last couple of years, just trying to get over the hump.
Yeah, it's driven them. It's that those losses have driven them into this year and who they are.
There we go. No more timeouts to take here. Game on the line. It's Williams in motion. Low snap. Milroe stopped. Michigan makes a stand and comes up with a milestone playoff victory. In the end, they put it in the hands of the quarterback, Milroe. Michigan was ready for him and stoned him short of the goal line. And J.J. McCarthy, as you said, Kirk, moments any quarterback would dream about. He drove his team down the field of the end of regulation. It was the running and done an OT.
Yeah, it really was. What an incredible game. Everything you could hope for. There's nothing but class by both sides. Alabama players, Booker,
high school
teams, buddies there.
All right, guys, that clip was courtesy of ESPN's YouTube channel. So thank you, ESPN, the YouTube channel, for that. And again, Michigan wins 27-20 over Alabama in overtime. One of the greatest games I've seen in Michigan Wolverines history, and their first ever national championship game in this new setup against Washington Huskies, who are 14-0 as well. This Monday night, I believe the pregame is 7:30. Kickoff is at 8 o'clock from Houston. And I've got Michigan winning this game 31-28. 31-28. I think whoever has the football at the end of the game is going to win this game. And I think turnovers is going to be a factor as well. And J.J. McCarthy has proved me wrong. I was a skeptic of him. I wasn't convinced he was the guy to lead this team to a national championship. And that last drive showed a lot of resilience and a lot of character. And this team faced adversity as well. And thumbs up to Alabama, too. They're a great football program as well. And looking forward to this game Monday night. Michigan, Washington, and I believe Michigan next year in 2024 is playing at Washington as well. So we'll see what happens there. But anyways, guys, I'm going to wrap this show up. But I have another live with CDP Sports Talk tomorrow, which is Thursday, January 4th at 12:45 p.m. Eastern. It's an odd time. My guest, his name is Dylan Baker. He is an 18-year-old broadcaster. I met him a couple years ago in London, Ontario at a London Majors game, and he does a terrific job as a color analyst with the London Majors of the Intercounty Baseball League, and he's also the play-by-play voice of the Gold Junior Hockey League's Komoka Kings as well. So Dylan Baker will join us and talk about his career in broadcasting at a young age with, again, the Komoka Kings of the Gold Junior Hockey League and the London Majors. And I'm excited to talk to him. So 12:45 p.m. tomorrow. And if you want to ask Dylan a question or comment on the show, please feel free in the comment section as well. So that'll be season 7, episode 22 tomorrow with Dylan Baker, who's out of London, Ontario, and he's got a bright future in the broadcasting industry, and I'm excited to have him on my show again. I had him on a couple years ago with Noel Smith as well, so hope you guys can tune in to more at 12:45 with Dylan Baker as well. Also, I want to give a shout out to my friend Nino Chimino. He is a actor, writer, producer in Los Angeles, California. And he has a movie coming out this year in the next few months, and it's called The DeMarco Crew, and it's set for release sometime in 2024. And it features a great cast, including my friend, actor Chris Spinelli from Fatal Justice, Louis DeStefano, Nicole D'Angelo, and Shane Ryan Reed from Another Way to Die as well. And it will be on it'll be released on all major live streaming platforms such as Amazon Music, Prime, and also on Netflix as well. So looking forward to that. And I wanted to give him Nino Shamino a shout out to the movie coming out soon called The DeMarco Crew. So look forward on all major live streams, especially on Amazon Prime, and also on Netflix as well. So the DeMarco Crew, look out for as well. All right, guys, as we wrap up this show, like always, I'm going to wrap it up in a couple minutes, but I want to say thank you to everybody for watching this show live streamed and also on audio later on this evening as well. And as always, Live with CDP Sports Talk is a weekly sports and entertainment talk show hosted by yours truly, Chris Palme, is on weeknights from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern on radio station WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key, the home of Southern sports and talk, and the heartbeat of Atlanta. Our radio station's website is wqeefm.radio12345.com as well. And a shout out to Ryan O'Neill, the station manager there as well. I've been on their station almost a year now. Live with CDP Sports Talk is also live streamed on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter /X, Twitch, LinkedIn, and now available on Instagram. So if you want to watch Live with CDP Sports Talk on Instagram, follow me there at Chris Palme on Instagram as well. You can also check out my website, beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme. All my media work and my previous radio and podcast shows is on that website again. So that's beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme. And my digital game stories are on WordPress through there as well. So anything you need to know about me on the digital world, check me out on that website again as well. Live with CDP Sports Talk, again, is sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210, or email them at info@barrycullen.com. Speaking of Barry Cullen Chevrolet right now, Barry Cullen Chevrolet, did you know, is the #1 electric dealer in the province of Ontario. And also at Barry Cullen Chevrolet right now, wintertime clearance is on at Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Time to save up to 13% on winter tires until February 29th. Don't pay tax on select in-stocked winter tire brands. Ride out the rest of the winter season with a peace of mind from Barry Cullen Chevrolet. And winter tires, I do highly recommend, especially when we have the cold weather and the snow temperatures as well. So please check out barrycullen.com as well. You can also follow me on TikTok at Live with CDP. I've now learned how to do video editing into YouTube Shorts, clips, and Reels. So if you want to catch some of my clips of my podcast shows, check them out on TikTok at Live with CDP as well. Also, guys, StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports Talk. If you're into webinars or podcasting like myself, check out StreamYard.com. And I'm proud to announce I am now an affiliate of StreamYard.com. So if anybody here wants some information about StreamYard, which is probably one of the best live streaming services in North America and the world, check out StreamYard.com, or please contact me via email or DM on social media about StreamYard. You can get a basic plan for free, or you can get plans up to a professional plan as well, depending on your needs. And great customer service there at StreamYard.com. And they've been a part of my show for 3 years now. And I want to say thank you to Jamie Pegley, the Philly sports guy, for getting me on to StreamYard and stuff as well. And I want to say thank you to StreamYard for getting my show on another platform on Instagram as well. Live with CDP Sports Talk, the audio version is available on iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify for podcasters, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Pandora, and Tuned In as well. Finally, you can email or text Live with CDP Sports Talk at cpalme19@gmail.com, or you can text the show at 519-820-7188. Any comments, questions, suggestions, any kind of feedback would be greatly appreciated as well. And some other news too, I'm looking forward to it. I will be back at the KeyBank Center in downtown Buffalo this Saturday night, January 6th, 7:30, as the Colorado Mammoths, Buffalo Bandits, a rematch of the last two NLL, National Lacrosse League Championship Series. Colorado won in 2022. Buffalo won this year in 2023. 7:30. Colorado's coming into this game off to a slow start at 1-2. Buffalo is off to a slow start at 1-2, and it's going to be a great game. You can get tickets with bandits.com. That's bandits.com. And also check out the National Lacrosse League's website at nll.com. I will be there as a media member, and check out my social media pages for pictures, videos, and I'm going to be doing some pre and post game interviews as well. And I want to say thank you to Ryan Slobowski from the Buffalo Bandits, who's the manager of media communications as well. So I'm really looking forward to going down there to watch the NLL finals rematch between Colorado and Buffalo. It's a huge game. If you've never been to a National Lacrosse League game, check out the NLL.com, or if you're in Ontario, check out the Toronto Rock. They play in Hamilton at the First Ontario Center, and the Bandits, first-class organization. They play at the KeyBank Center. And I did just do an interview last week with Steve Bermel, the color analyst for the Bandits. So if you can't get down to Bandit Land, the game will be on ESPN Plus, TSN Plus, and also on the CW23 network in Buffalo, as well as 1520 The Bet on the radio with John Gerkler and Steve Bermel and the sideline reporter Dave Buchanan, who I'm hoping to interview as well at some point as well. But I'm really looking forward to that as well. So that's about it for tonight. I want to say thank you to Taylor Phillips for coming on again, and check out his podcast show, the Michigan Sports Truce Podcast. It's on all platforms that's available, and his show with Ed Smith, his co-host, tomorrow night, 10:30 p.m. and they'll be talking all sports Michigan as well. So thank you to him. And I want to say thank you to Barry Cullen Chevrolet for sponsoring this show, as well as being on WQEE 99.1 FM weeknights from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. as well. And that's about it. I will see you guys tomorrow afternoon at 12:45 p.m. with Dylan Baker, the play-by-play announcer for the Go Junior Hockey League's Kamoka Kings, and color analyst with the London Majors of the Intercounty Baseball League as well. So I hope everybody has a great night, and we're looking forward to seeing you for another episode tomorrow at 12:45. Again, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet and on WQEE 99.1 FM in Newton, Georgia. Have a great night, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for watching and listening to Live with CDP Sports Talk.